we are glad to be joined by England's own Pete Dunne, who, of course, is vying for the NXT title this Sunday at Vengeance Day. Pete, you finally got the shot. It's a European dream match in many eyes. It's been coined. Pete Dunne, Finn Balor. It's one thing to get the shot, but in this kind of dream scenario, does it mean that a little bit more? I've seen that you say you don't have respect, so maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that we've never crossed paths at all. Our first interactions in the ring have been maybe we were in the same locker room once or twice, but in terms of out there in front of an audience, our first real interactions have been in NXT. And for people whose paths have been so similar from a similar part of the world, you'd have thought that by now it would have happened, right? So it adds another layer to this of what's already obviously special, and the fact that we're main eventing the takeover. It's two European lads, back when I started, it didn't even feel like one of us would make it, let alone there being so many of us now in the company and headlining a show as big as Takeover.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you said, they're traveling those different paths and whatnot. I believe you started training when you were 16. Is that right?
No, I was 12.
12, sorry. Yeah, I didn't know when you had your first match or anything like that. So, what's that, 15 years now?
Yeah. Well, I actually remember one of my first training sessions. It might have even been the first one. All the lads there were talking about this lad from Ireland who had made it to Japan, and obviously they were talking about Finn Balor. And at the time, I didn't know. I was just into WWE and some other companies, but I wouldn't know much about Japan. And I vividly remember that would have been my first, second, third, maybe training session, and they couldn't believe that somebody had made it from the same sort of place that we had. And then looking around that room and looking at like the sort of derelict building and the crappy mats we were training on, to think that someone had made it from there, and they were saying he was wrestling Jushin Liger that week or whatever. And then now to look 15 years on, here we are, me and him headlining the takeover.
But I mean, you carved out your own legacy, man. And, a lot of people consider you, along with the British Strong Style guys and many others that we're seeing killing it in NXT UK right now, cornerstones of the scene that would now is, well, not now because of COVID and whatnot, but you know what I'm saying? You've built it to something special that WWE eventually capitalized on. When you watched Finn Balor rising at that time and you were starting your journey, was you interested in following his footsteps? Was it like, okay, maybe I'll get to Japan, maybe I'll get over here, maybe I'll do that? Because you kind of seemed to me to blaze your own trail.
It was never a case of I want to be like him and I want to follow exactly what he's done, but the layout at the time seemed like that would be the way that it would all go down. Would I'd have to go and make a name out somewhere like Japan or whatever, and then things worked out so differently, and part of that is right place, right time, but a big part of that is being ready for an opportunity. And when the opportunity finally did come for myself, Tyler, Trent, Mark Andrews, so on, we were ready for it. We'd put in the work and we were ready to go. So even though we do have this similar story, myself and Finn, obviously that's where it's very different. He feels like a generation before me, because we didn't cross paths, and it's all coming to a head.
Yeah, and what would mean winning the NXT title this Sunday, because you've obviously had a legendary reign as the NXT UK champion, and I'm not saying that there's tiers between the British brand and the US arm, but you've been close against guys like Adam Cole and whatnot, and it would feel maybe at this point in your career where you're the best version of yourself, I think that's very fair to say, it would be super significant to now get that NXT title and run with it, man, where NXT's in its best place.
Yeah, and there's a few layers to that too. Like, in one sense, like I say, Finn seems like a generation before me. He's already been up there on the main roster. He's already made that bigger name for himself. So in a sense, it'd be a passing of the torch. And then the other side of it is it's a chance to make history and be the first person to hold both the UK title and the US NXT title. And for me personally, obviously, it's the next step. I've been lucky enough to do quite a lot by now, and I'm proud of what I've done and the body of work I've created. But that is the next big step now is moving on into that position in NXT and being at the forefront, and being the number one guy.
Well, speaking of that, I thought it was very cool to see Edge come out and say about the admiration that he has for you, and presumably Obviously, you will have had interactions with him before that down the road. I would imagine, but he's been away for, he had 9 years before he came back. So again, your journey, certainly in WWE, you wouldn't have seen him in that capacity. But now all of a sudden, it's very possible. It's not out of the question that you and Edge could share a ring down the line. Like, just talk to me about how cool that moment was in general and that prospect.
Yeah, I think Edge has always been someone who, out of that sort of Alpha guys who came before us, he's one of the most approachable. And I've only had brief interactions with him over the years, but whenever I do, he's always been really, really forward and really nice and really happy to, he's invested in what we're doing as well. And I think that shows. And I think that's why he wanted to be at NXT as well. It's because he genuinely is interested in what goes on there and looking at the future stars. Now, obviously, with him returning to the ring and making his second comeback now, that obviously opens a bunch of different opportunities getting to work with him. And I'm glad I got to work with him in that setting, but working with him at WrestleMania would obviously be a whole nother level to that. And hopefully, even if it's not at WrestleMania, hopefully down the line we get to work together more and more, because I think, my character and his character, like he drew the comparisons, and I think we could make some really, really great matches.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I remember last time we spoke and you said that Randy Orton was really high up there in the list of people you wanted to work with. Presumably Edge is right in that mix now.
Yeah, I think to a lot of people, those kind of matches still feel like they feel like maybe not a step above, but a long way away, right? It's especially out in the real world, right? When I talk to real friends back home, people like that they love seeing what we're doing. But whenever you get tweeted by Randy Orton or you're standing there in the ring with someone like an Edge, they're always the people reaching out to me, wanting to talk about it and ask questions.
Yeah.
And it's great now that these possibilities are real. We started this UK brand and it was its own sort of thing, and now we're at the point where I'm rubbing shoulders with these guys, and why not take it the whole way, and why not be able to go out there and tell great stories with people of the likes of Randy or Edge or whoever else.
Yeah, and it's fresh, man. It's fresh and exciting. Like you said, might seem a long way away, but now that you've arrived here and you've got guys like Edge saying what fans they are of your work and stuff, like, I feel like your body of work is, lends credence to you more than anything else. But still, the fact that you have the respect of guys like that, there must be a little bit of you inside that's like, that's cool.
Yeah, it's great. And to me, I've always put a big focus on like who we're working with now, like creating a history of myself and Tyler and Trent and the Undisputed Era, and our current crop of guys putting on the best work we possibly can, so that it's remembered in the same way that the Edges, the Randy Ortons, the Triple H's, how they're remembered too. But obviously, at some point, there's got to become some kind of crossover. And like you say, it is fresh. It's fresh for me. They're not even matches I would have fully considered. But I'm at the point now in my career and my life where why not? I'm ready to take this next step to take the NXT title, and then who knows from then on.
Well, now that I did mention earlier, obviously you're the best version of yourself, and I think visually, certainly that is clear to see for everyone. Have you, now that you're back in America and on weekly TV, of course you haven't got the house show loops or anything to do, so I assume you've been able to keep your training regimen. If anything, maybe got it stronger now that you're in America.
Yeah, it's going strength to strength. I'm out of a diet phase now, so I'm able to eat enough food to fuel these long, hard workouts and long, hard matches. So I'm at a really good place with it all. And it's part of what I say about being at a point in my life, my career, where I am ready to take the next step. And it is interesting right now of not having the sort of, for lack of a better term, these house show loops or whatever. And it, for me, it feels weird to only be working that one day a week. But it's different, and it's a different opportunity to be able to train harder and focus entirely just on those days where you are going out there doing it. It never feels like, you never feel worn down by it. You always get the chance to recover and get back in there and always be at your best. So obviously the negative side to it is we're not there interacting with the people and fans from different parts of the country and the world. But, trying to put a positive spin on it. You get that time to recover, and every time you are on TV, you should be at your best.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking about you're out of the diet phase and your regimen, but Trent, looks like he might need some help. You know, he's trying to get down to 205, Pete. Are you going to lend some expertise his way?
I've been helping him. Yeah, I've been on the phone to him a bunch, giving him some tips and stuff like that. And he'll do it when he gets his mindset on something. Yeah, I'm confident he'll pull it off.
Yeah, me too. I like the video package of him training and stuff I see this week on NXT UK. And that brings me nicely onto NXT UK. I know obviously it's close to your heart. You must be excited to see these new signings that they've had over there. You know, Miko Satomura and Ben Carter. We've got Charles Samuels. Rampage Brown, man. Like, there's so many guys. I almost wish you were still there in a way, man, to see you work some of these guys. And I know you've had the ear of the higher ups of NXT UK when it comes to new talent before. So did you have any involvement in getting these guys over there, or just in general, how excited are you to see the current crop?
Yeah, I think they're all no-brainers. Some of the guys I don't know too well. Those that I do, especially the likes of Miko and Rampage and stuff, I don't think they needed me in their ear. They're sort of no-brainers, right? Like Rampage especially is a great signing for the men's side of things. I'm excited to see what he can do. I've never actually wrestled him, so that's something down the line. Yeah, we've barely crossed paths.
Wow.
But, you know, I've always watched his work, and I'm sure he's watched mine. And down the line, whether it's over here or back in the UK, that's something I'd love to look into and work with him a bit more. And obviously, I have quite a lot of history with Miko, and that's a fantastic signing for the female side of things. Because not only is she going to be obviously great to watch as a fan, but, you know, just her being in that locker room, being at the performance center and being able to share that knowledge is unbelievable for the females there to have access to that. So yeah, it's exciting all around.
Just a couple more from me before I know that I do have to let you go here. I've got to say, one of the things that I really enjoyed about your quote unquote run at the moment in NXT, man, the stuff with you and Kyle O'Reilly, you two seem to have unbelievable chemistry. I know that you're like an MMA fan, and of course he trains, and the matches you two have are just unbelievably kind of technical, and the chemistry is all there. How much of a thrill, how much has it helped you, prepare, I guess, for this next level, working with him? Because it just seems like that has brought out the best in both of you. Like the work between you, Carl, and Finn, for my money at this moment, has been like as good anywhere in the world in a main event picture. Yeah,
Carl's brilliant. His approach to bringing in that MMA sort of style and attaching it to pro wrestling is probably the best at it I've ever seen. Mixing those two, it's something completely different. A lot of people do, myself included, will throw out arm bars and triangles and moves they've seen on MMA shows, but Carl's so brilliant at blending the two of them together sort of seamlessly. So he's always exciting to work with. I love that style of wrestling. And I always say it when I talk about era, but I'll say it again. It's a competition whenever you wrestle any of them, and especially Kyle, because of that style. When you're in there, you're really competing. And I think that's what shows to the audience. And that's why it's, for most people, it's something that they gravitate to, myself included. They're my favorite kind of matches to watch, where you can see it's a competition. You can, it's real, that side of things. So, yeah, he's always great to work with.
Yeah, I would, and this is obviously just my opinion, I'd rank him as one of my favourite opponents you've had thus far in WWE. Where would you put him?
Yeah, he's up there. We had one match before this run a couple of years ago for the UK title, I think it was. It was around that time anyway. And it was only a brief match, but I always remembered that fondly and thought if we ever get a chance to really sink our teeth in and have a decent run together, we can really put on some great matches. And that's what we've been doing, I hope, and hopefully we have quite a few more to come. Like I say, I always try and focus on the group of guys that we're making the history now. It's nice to reminisce, and especially when you see people like Edge and like we're saying, people like Randy saying that they want to work with people like us, and it's great to see that on the table, especially around WrestleMania time and the Royal Rumble and stuff. But we've got to remember that we're making our own history now, and in 10, 20, 30 years, I want people to be looking back and saying, those matches were amazing. It changed the business, or whatever comes of what we do now. It's important that we focus on that. And any opportunity to work with the era guys or with Finn this weekend is a chance to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait to see what you do with Finn on Sunday. Quickly, I know you're a UFC fan. What did you make of the McGregor Poirier? I was going to call it a fight, but the shock.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was that much of a shock, to be honest. I kind of expected it. It's a shame. I've always been a massive fan of McGregor, and I was pulling for him, but at MMA, it always seems to work out that way, right? Eventually, for the most part, people end up, people work out the puzzle, and that can be the end of people. But I'm sure he'll come back and be better than ever, or if not, there's always WWE, right?
Well, yeah, that's it. I was going to say, people were like, oh, yeah, he doesn't want it anymore, or he's too rich, or he's washed. I don't think that makes you washed losing to Dustin Poirier, by the way. I think that was kind of a little disrespectful to his ability.
Yeah, that's MMA, right? That's the narrative always seems to go to that. Like, people were overrated or whatever. He's number 2 in the world, right? So there's no shame in that.
No, not at all. But speaking of Mark Tracy's trying to make the moves to number 1, that'll be you this Sunday, Pete. We can't wait to see it. The card, by the way, from top to bottom looks great. If for anyone here in the UK who is going to be tuning in, I know what to expect between you and Finn Balor, but tell us what you're going to bring to the table this Sunday.
Like I was saying, it's competition. It's going to be a war. Honestly, I don't know. I don't fully know what to expect myself. Like I say, the special thing about this is the fact that we've managed to not touch until now, right? Like, our only interaction has been in this lead up to takeover. So it is something fresh and it is something new, but something that really shouldn't be. Like, by now we should have built a history together. So it feels like 15 years coming to a head, and finally me and him are one-on-one, and sort of the biggest stage you can really get when it comes to NXT. So it's time for him to pass the torch and me to move into the position where I should be for the next few years.
Absolutely, absolutely. 2 of Europe's best going at it this Sunday. Pete Dunne, thank you very much for your time, my friend. I would wish you good luck, but I don't know if you'll need it. But thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, mate.